My name is Couch Coop, and this is not my first rodeo with a No Man's Sky patch review. We're going to be looking at Worlds, which is known as 5.0, and it is hands down the biggest update this game has ever seen, and I have not done the changes justice in this early and quite short video, but I'm trying to point out as much as I can. Most of it cosmetic and visual improvements on this video. I do a bit of planet hopping, and I'm right at the start, front quarter of the game, because this is a look at the PC version. We have had to wait 5 extra days, so the top end consoles, the PlayStation and the Xboxes, they got the patch a lot earlier than us PC gamers over on Game Pass or even Steam. I think this is around Hello Games' 17th or 16th patch, and it is completely free. The last patch I saw that gave us this much change to the game's structure and visuals was of course the Atlas, with some of those missions and the changes within the space stations. Shall we have a look at No Man's Sky Day 1? I got this game literally on the evening before the release. I was far more connected back then. For something from 2016, it doesn't look too horrific. But there was quite a lot wrong with it behind the scenes, and there was huge backlash and uproar on the week of the release of this game. People were after Sean Murray. It was a mess. I think the keen-eyed among you will immediately notice after logging in the cloud, the volumetric appearance of a lot of the environmental effects with the smoke and mist and storms has had a huge improvement, but a lot of this isn't noticeable until you get down on the ground. Basic flight around planetary surfaces has had an improvement on pop-in and just various issues with furniture within game disappearing, reappearing. Holy crap, that's sorted out. That is so smooth, seamless. Planet to planet travel, it always was pretty slick, but we suffered some strange popping issues with the trees, volcanoes. Things on planetary surfaces would sometimes appear at the last minute, making it look a little bit weird, but we're now in a new place. I am noticing some of these smudges. Looks like heat haze near the ground. It's alright, doesn't distract me too much. I think it's something to do with that smoke change and the fact that I am running this on a medium PC. Okay, this is a 1660S, this is not a big rig, so it can go higher than this, and that brings me up to where I put it on a graphical front with the setting. Everything seemed to be reset after the patch installation, and I was on enhanced, which is one above the bottom rung. The next is high, so I slung it all over. I still kept it 60 frames per second. I'm running this at 1080, that's my sacrifice, but I was like, wow, I get 60 frames per second and high settings on a mid-range PC and no major issues. Well, that honeymoon period did not last too long because we visit a planet with water. Now that's the second major update, is the water and dynamic animation on it. It is so much improvement within engine, it's ridiculously good, but it will chug your system. Now I'm going to have to do this video again for 9th gen consoles, I think, but I want your feedback on how the water works for you. Going into a planet that's heavily water based, do you see any drop in frames on the way in? The whole thing slowed up to about 20 frames per second, and this prompted me to go back in the options and switch just the water detail back down to enhanced, and this sort of improved things. It's still stuck to around 40, but that was my only real issue, was this one planet which seemed to be extremely water heavy. That may have been a reason for it falling over. The smaller lakes and ponds on planets, no issues. And it's not just your standard wave cut and paste mesh system. This is pretty dynamic. I know it said that in the patch notes, but I wasn't prepared for such a variant on wave size. It also makes a noise now, which is also a bonus. So before it was just a flat, shimmering, silent mirror. Sticking on the variant subject, now let me just break this down because this one's kind of huge. It annoys me on two fronts. When they release those patch notes and footage, they'll show some rare bug, some amazing looking alien that you may or may not see on a red or green planet if you put 55 hours in. With this update, immediate gobsmackery with the cool stuff that's generated by that algorithm. Gone is that horrible original base layer of switch out when it comes to autonomy on the aliens, and here is this just brand new stuff. It's unreal. It's absolutely amazing. I cannot believe I didn't have new pellets to ride this thing. That alien generation algorithm looks to have been reset, and it is an absolute joy to be able to clap eyes on some proper weird stuff early on without having to warp to a far distant planetary system. This stuff's right on your doorstep. It feels like all of the lighting has had a rework on the planetary surfaces. The shadows look crisper, they look realer, they seem to be more involved in where the sun is positioned. You still do have the odd alien anomaly that you've seen 16,000 times, but against this backdrop of improved visuals, it is sort of looking like a different game. I know that sounds like a big jump, and I may have mentioned that before with previous updates, but this one is colossal in change on a visual level with every single planet you get to. And that doesn't even touch on the reflection improvement, and I'm not too sure how they're doing this, but they look incredible on every single planet. There's no ray tracing mentioned here, it's just a standard flat replication of the image above, but the shimmering, the differences in colour on each body of water is also something to take on board. It's not always blue lakes, sometimes they're green, crazy pinks. The colour palette for the game was always quite outlandish, but it's just been upped even more. I know that's quite hard to believe. Now this is an external to landing piece of footage, and if you know the game well, you would start seeing strange stuff happening now, delays, pop-ins, there may even be a big pause whilst the planetary surface detail loads in. It is flawless from space right down to the ground, and you cannot say that about a lot of space games out there at the moment. Starfield's got 3 load screens before you even step out the spacecraft. I did just want to check that everything was okay with combat, space fights. I wasn't invaded or attacked too much during that open quarter. I think they've laid off that a little bit. If you start this game again on previous patches, almost every time you go to a different planet you've got a pirate on your ass. With this it was a bit of a rarity, and if you know about previous updates, they included an L2 automatic lock-on. Now talking about previous games, Starfield and of course Elite Dangerous, I feel some of their ship-to-ship combat is a little bit stronger than No Man's Skies, but they did up the ante. You do have a variant in weapon, you have shields. This fight I generally had to think about things and manage my resources in my cockpit to keep my shield topped up, and there was a decent reward after it, so everything kind of the same on that front. I do genuinely feel quite sorry for some of these creatures. It's a little bit like that film Freaks, where this mad scientist is just creating these chimera-like abominations and then just leaving them to cope with life. Like, how is this evolutionarily in canon? Little butterfly pulling a 4-ton lizard. But that's half the joy of the game, is algorithm is now popping out some super crazy stuff. Now let's talk about that space station transition, because dang, this looks good. See how I veered off course there to go into the entrance? That would have sent it into some clipping nightmare before it just completely coped with it, didn't drop a single frame. The space stations did get a rework a while ago, but it's still really nice to see it with this new volumetric and some of the ship variants, which I think may have been increased slightly. Look at this bad boy. Where is the owner? Talking of previous updates, one of them completely revolved around the Sentinels. There being more of them, more variants of them. That's something in the front quarter I haven't seen too much of, and I imagine that's introduced in mid-game with the mechs and a lot of the slightly more powerful flying Sentinels. So no major upheaval in that direction. Patch also sports quite a lot of co-op content, including those expeditions and coming across the big brood alien monsters. That's something I'm going to crowbar into the next video, which should be a PlayStation 5 review of this patch. I have been Couch Coup. I will see you down there.